I'm the underdog with the heroic heart. I'm Eric Jones Jr. I have to keep pushing for my kids. If I give up, what's that leave them with? Nothing. I have to understand that it's bigger than me. That it's not about me when I wake up and go to work. It's not about me when I'm reading to educate myself. It's not about me when I'm practicing my speeches. It's not about me. It's about my family.
Hey, you're now tuned in to Underdog Talk. I'm your host, Eric Jones Jr., the underdog with the heroic heart, and I have conversations with successful underdogs. And today I have Mr. David Gibson. How are you doing today, sir?
Awesome, brother. How about yourself, man?
I'm doing pretty good. You enjoying this cold weather we got here, huh?
Yeah, man. We're going to bring the fire and heat it up our way, man.
Exactly. So before we get into today's conversation, today's episode is brought to you by Christian Dewan. That's me and my son's clothing line. If you use the promo code Underdog Talk, if you're watching, Underdog Talk is on top of me. And if you're listening, Underdog is spelled UNDERDAWG Talk. You get 15% off. The website is christiandewan.com. We have t-shirts, we have hoodies, we have sweatshirts. So let's get into today's conversation. So Mr. David, you are, I don't know why I'm calling you Mr. David like you old. Elevation is a must. Before you was elevation is a must, what was life looking like? Where were you at? What was going on?
I mean, how far back do you want to go? I mean, essentially, when we're talking about when I initially launched my business, this was in 2013. And prior to that, I was in corporate sales and had been working for an organization for about 7, 8 years. And really, I had recently graduated from college and didn't necessarily know what direction I wanted to take my life, Eric, right? Like many, recent college grads, I've got my bachelor's degree. I majored in business, studying marketing, and was really just unclear on where I wanted to take my life. But at the time, I was making a decent amount of money, but I knew deep down that I wasn't using my gifts, my talents, my unique abilities. But at the end of the day, I was getting a paycheck, right? And I tell many people I was, in those golden handcuffs where I was comfortably dissatisfied. You know what I mean? And I kept having this desire for more. And God had given me this vision to travel and encourage individuals to optimize their potential and live out their dreams. And I can recall like yesterday, man, working in this facility, Eric, getting this vision, I literally laughed out loud because I was in a place where I found it difficult to encourage myself, and I was going through a lot of internal struggles and challenges. And as I essentially was navigating my own personal journey, I began to just start sharing insights. And to make a long story long, I guess, essentially I started to get invited to speak at a variety of different events and a different variety of conferences and things of that nature. And then I had this crazy idea to say, hey, maybe I can build a business model around this. So I started mapping things out, and creating like a plan of action and timelines. And my grandmother always would say, if you ever want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, right? I had mapped out, a step by step process on this path that I was going to take. And I had this expectation that everything was just going to fall in place. I was going to stack up some bread, make sure I was handling my responsibilities. And then when I was ready, I was going to jump, off that cliff and take that entrepreneurial journey. But nonetheless, man, October 3rd of 2013, they called me in and they said, we no longer need you, right? And essentially, man, to kind of give you some context, I had been working for this organization again, right about 8 years. Never used a sick day, never used a personal day. In fact, I lost one of my close uncles and I came in voluntarily the next day just to clear my head, right? And I don't say that to toot my horn. I say that to say sometimes you could be doing everything right, but be in the wrong place, right? And essentially, man, I had to get kicked out the nest because I was in a comfortable position and I wasn't going to move on my own. You know how we often come up with these goals and objectives, but then that fear on the inside of us often postpones us taking action or executing on that goal. And that's where I was, right? So God had to kick me out of the nest to demonstrate that I have wings, but it was up to me to leverage those wings so I can start soaring to new heights. And as I began to operate in my element, right, and really immersing myself in the craft of speaking, developing a business model, and really putting my name out there, doors started to open up. So again, to make a long story long, man, what I was doing prior to what I'm doing now was in corporate sales, and essentially, man, just being released and laid off. But nonetheless, it was really an experience that taught me more about myself and equipped me to be in position to do the things that I'm doing now.
I love that, man. One thing I heard though, you said it's not about you were making the money, but you felt like it was something you shouldn't be there. It's like, the money cool, but because people always think it's about the money when you go after your dreams, your goals,
Yeah.
whatever you want to put, whatever name you want to have. But it's not about that, because you want to do it if you weren't making money, but you know eventually do want to make that money. So that's one thing I heard. And then you working a job and you kind of was on the fence about had a plan to leave the job, but the job said, well, we don't need you, so go ahead, do what you got to
Yeah.
do. And God, and like you said, God is funny like that. It's like you were sitting there like, oh, I got this little nest, I'm good, got the money. No, you said you wanted to leap, go ahead, leap,
Yeah.
jump off the cliff and see what happens. So I love that. So you get fired, you start your business. Everybody, they start their business. I know you started off, everything was going peaches and cream, right? Everything was going all right, or was
No.
life hit you and you was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this.
Man, you got to figure it out, man. You have to take baby steps, and most importantly, man, you make it up along the way, right? Of course, when you're starting any new endeavor, when you're launching a business, when you're stepping into a new chapter in your life, or you're just aiming to reinvent yourself, there's going to be some form of resistance, right? There's going to be challenges, there's going to be obstacles, there's going to be difficult, seasons and things that you have to learn to navigate. But nonetheless, if you give up during those difficult times, you won't make it to those brighter days. On my journey, man, it's about really just discovering, how to make this thing work, right? For those that may not know, I have a personal development platform where we specialize in providing young professionals with tools, strategies, and the inspiration to build, grow, and scale their ideas. And I do this in a variety of different ways. I do a lot of keynote addresses, leadership trainings for organizations and small businesses, workshops, mastermind groups, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, as well as we also have a media production company where we create content that's designed for young professionals as well as small business owners. But I say all that to say it didn't start out the way we are now, right? It's about those baby steps, taking those incremental steps towards a vision and keep working at it, right? Because nonetheless, when you're building something, right, you're working towards an idea or you're aiming to seize any opportunity, Eric, you're going to hear more no's than you hear yeses, right? That's a part of the process. And what really determines how you're going to respond to that word no is what you believe about yourself and the faith that you have in your vision, right? So if those two pillars are fragmented and aren't solid and don't have that foundation, then you're going to crumble under pressure, right? So I tell many people, man, it's about getting clear on what you want and having a single focus on accomplishing that, right? Like the Bible talks about a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. So it's about you being single-minded on what you desire. And then most importantly, you got to believe that you have what it takes to make it happen, right? And that requires us in many ways unpacking those limiting beliefs, those fears, those doubts, those insecurities, and reframing them in empowering ways to help us stay focused and in alignment with where we're ultimately aiming to take our life. So to answer your question directly, nah, it wasn't a straight path towards achievement, and it's still not a straight path. But nonetheless, the journey that I'm taking, it's helping me to discover more about my character. It's helping me grow as an individual, grow as a leader, and it's helping me deepen my impact from the lessons that I'm learning from this resistance that I'm experiencing day in and day out.
I love that answer because you brought it to where, oh, okay, this is where we at now, but it took time, it took years, it took steps. And one thing that I heard was clarity. You got to have clarity on what it is that you want to do. If you don't have that clear focus of what you want to do, you won't do it. So at the beginning of this year, I said my focus is on my podcast. And I dropped the episode every week. I never missed the episode. Sometimes I might have missed like the day and uploaded or whatever just because of forgetting or technology or whatever the case may be. But I never missed a week of the podcast because I was clear on what I wanted to do. And when you get clear, your focus that's where it goes. Your focus goes where your energy goes, and your energy goes what you're thinking of. And when you think like, okay, I'm going to do this, then you got to do it. And like you said, it's about, do you got what it takes? Because you're going to hear some no's. People going to be like, no, I don't want to be on your show or this, that. I do everything on my own. Like my setup is a weird setup, but I do everything on my own. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. If nobody else is going to do it for me. And eventually when someone sees you doing something, they'll eventually help you. They'll eventually be like, all right, this is what I can do for you. But if you don't take those baby steps, then you won't even be able to get anywhere. You got to take the stairs instead of the elevator. And because you got to take each step and take each pain that goes along with it. So you were younger as you started. So your mindset was probably, kind of where it needed to be, but not where it needed to be. So how did you shift? Because a lot of it starts with mindset. How did you shift your mindset to like, I'm all in, I'm doing this, I'm going to be a better me? Because sometimes people just want to do business and they don't want to, work on themselves. They just want to work on their business.
Yeah. Well, to answer your question, I'll start by saying this. The greatest personal development course you can ever take is starting a business, because it forces you to confront yourself, right? If you don't believe in yourself, that's going to be demonstrated in how you show up for opportunities, right? Whether you raise your hand for those opportunities, how you're interacting with others, how you petition your ideas, right? How you pitch, a specific project that you're working on, whether if you're aiming to get investors in your business or, you're aiming to get people to support, your mission and to build a following and to develop your brand. If you don't believe in yourself, that's going to be demonstrated in how you show up for the cause. But if you're aiming to truly be effective, then you got to do that inner work, right? You have to work on your belief systems, and you have to align your habits ultimately with the results that you're aiming to experience. Because let's keep it real, Eric, like the life that we live now is a result of the habits that we've established, right? Whether it's our thinking patterns or our behavioral patterns. So you have to begin to evaluate how you're showing up, right? And ask yourself and be completely honest, like, am I in alignment with the person that can create the results that I'm aiming to experience, right? Like, you can't have $1 million dreams, but a minimum wage work ethic. You know what I mean? You can't have a big vision, but then you're always playing life small, right? You can't have a great idea that you're looking to execute on and manifest in your life, and essentially you only show up two days out the week. It's a matter of us evaluating, like, what are you thinking on a consistent basis? What are you feeding your temple? What are some of the habits that you've developed? Who are the people that you're surrounding yourself with? What are the conversations that you're having? What are you tuning into? Because what you tune into, you turn into. Are you tuning into things that are promoting the vision that you have, that are helping you build that idea, that are investing something on the inside of you? Or is it stunning your growth and your progress? I think it's very important, especially at the time of this recording, right? We're about to step into a new year, being 2023. It's important to kind of do that reality check and look at the man or the woman in the mirror and ask yourself, what do I need to upgrade in order to create better results? How can I show up differently in order for me to move my life forward? What do I need to adjust or improve about myself in order for me to create better results?
I love that. The first thing you said was sometimes people, you raise your hand. I'm a teacher, right? So I got students. They just raise their hand and raise their hand. All right, pick on them. They don't know nothing because you thought you were ready for the opportunity, but you weren't ready for the opportunity. So like you said, you can't have a minimum wage mindset and think you're gonna be a millionaire. You can't work. Okay, I got this dream. I'm gonna work on it once a day, once out of the week. No, that's not how it works. Because if you're gonna be successful, you gotta do it every single day. Like you just said, the new year's coming up, and you know everybody. Oh, new year, new me, New Year's resolutions, all those
Yeah.
different things. What is your thought process on that?
As far as New Year's
Like you
resolutions,
know how people, oh, it's the new year, new me, but they haven't done anything prior. They didn't do nothing 2022, but they think just because the new year gonna come, they gonna change. Or oh, I'm going, it's a New Year's resolution. I'm gonna do this. I'm going, and they do it for the first month, but then in February, they stop whatever they doing.
here's my answer to that, right? Like, I think this is where many people get it twisted and it's a flawed perception. What the average person attempts to do when we step into a new year is their aim is to create a different outcome, a better result. They want to improve a specific aspect on their life. Um, and they do that by means of changing their behavior, right? I want to lose X amount of pounds, so I want to start going to the gym, right? Which is a part of the process, but it often leaves many people resorting back to the life that they used to live. And I'll break that down here in a quick second, right? I was reading an article not too long ago, Eric, where they were describing the percentage of people that win the lottery and then 7 years later they go broke. Can you guess how many actually go broke after winning the lottery? Like, what percentage would you guess?
I'm gonna say at least 75% or more.
Close to it, 87%. Now, think about that for a quick moment, right? 87% of people that earn, not even earn, but win millions of dollars, right? Millions of dollars, like overnight. Like, they look at their bank account, then overnight they got a huge amount of zeros that are added to what's inside of their bank account. 87% of those end up losing all of that money, and in some cases go bankrupt, meaning they're worse off than what they were before. And when you think about that, the reason is because essentially they have all of this money that's thrown into their account, but they still have the same mindset. They still have the same belief systems. They don't have the financial literacy. They're not economically sound or in tune with how they can invest these dollars, and they're used to going paycheck to paycheck and spending all of their dollars by the end of the month, right? So that habit is established and they're conditioned to operate like that. And plus you got people that are all up in their pockets and they're handing out money, right? So they end up buying all these things and then going broke, all because essentially they keep the same behavioral patterns and expecting a different result. But most importantly, and here's the game changer, their identity is still the same, right? They still identify as a person that is impoverished, that doesn't operate like a millionaire, that doesn't operate like an investor. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying with bringing all this together as we step into a new year, our focus should not be on the outcome nor the behavior, but our focus should be on the identity, right? Like, you look at what it is that you want and desire and begin to identify as the type of person that can create that type of result. So, to make it easier to understand, we all know many people are looking to get in shape at the top of the year. Instead of focusing on losing X amount of pounds or gaining, muscles or, whatever the case may be, focus on developing the habits that will give you that type of result by identifying as the type of person that can create that outcome, right? How do I do that, D1? Essentially, become the type of person that doesn't skip a workout. Become the type of person that challenges themselves every time you step into the gym. Become the type of person that has a goal, you just want to be 1% better. Then a byproduct of you becoming that person and identifying as that person are the results that are going to come with it. When you stay consistent, you keep putting in the work, eventually you're going to burn calories and you're going to shed the weight and your physique will begin to change, right? Let's say, for instance, you want to write a book, right? Instead of focusing on the book, become the type of person that writes every single day. Designate 30 minutes a day, 60 minutes a day. create a timeline in your agenda, right? And this is something that you specify. Like, this is the moment in my day where I'm going to sit down and write. You now identify as a writer. Sooner than later, if you write every single day, you're going to have a book written. All because you focused on identifying as the type of person that can create that type of result. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes sense. Perfect sense. It's like people, we have to study success. We have to study successful people. If you want to be a millionaire, you got to look up what a millionaire does, not how they got to where, what do they do on a daily basis? Because it's all about our habits. And that you explain that perfect. It's not about the goal, it's about who you become. And you have to identify your weaknesses and your strengths. Because if you identify your weaknesses, you're like, okay, last year I said I was going to lose weight, but at this point I stopped. Why did I stop? Or whatever the case may be. And you have to identify who you are and who you aren't. Because sometimes you want a goal and you're not that person yet. You can't want something that you're not. You're not going to reach it. It's like, oh, you pray for this, and then you get it and you're not ready. You're like, oh God, I didn't know I didn't know you was sending that gift today. I didn't know how that blessing was. You wasn't ready because your habits wasn't there. And so with habits, how does one develop habits? You kind of said it like doing stuff once a day. Like it takes 21 days for someone a habit to actually, become something more than just a habit. But what are some things that you would advise people to do to help their habits? Because that's one of the biggest things that people don't realize why they're not successful or they're not doing what they're supposed to, is because their habits. It's easier to do what you're not supposed to do than it is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, it goes back to Mark Twain had this quote where he said, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." Right. And I think a lot of times we attempt to tackle too much too fast, if that makes sense, right? Like we can come up with these big goals and these big ideas, and then we overwhelm ourselves trying to execute on them, right? And failing to really miss the value in small daily incremental steps, right? So if you're aiming to develop a habit, right? Say for instance you're looking to improve the quality of your health, it can start by saying, hey, for the next 30 days, I'm simply just going to show up and focus on being hydrated, drinking more water, right? Every single day, I'm going to make sure I'm getting an adequate amount of water every day. And you do that for 30 days, you're going to help develop that habit. It may not be deeply ingrained, but you're beginning those steps. Then the next 30 days, you're like, man, hey, I'm going to make sure I'm getting adequate sleep, right? Adequate rest. So that's going to require me to get to bed a little earlier, right? So I can wake up on time and create a sleeping pattern that helps my body restore, helps my mind get renewed, helping me be vibrant and energetic. And then on top of that, you're like, yo, I can go to the gym. And then you focus on that for another 30 days. But you're taking these daily steps and you're making incremental progress. Now, one may say, well, that takes too long. But it essentially is going to be a lot more effective than you trying to do it all at once. Because when you get overwhelmed and you become confused, confusion and complexity are the enemy of execution, right? So if I'm confused and overwhelmed and all these complexities are thrown at me, I'm not going to execute consistently. And before I know it, that change that I was looking to make, that shift that I was looking to experience, will become a lost thought. But by you staying at it consistently, biting off these small pieces, sooner than later, these new routines are going to become a part of your normal. They're going to become a part of your habit system, and you're going to start getting the results that those habits can create. So to answer your question again, start small, right? What's the thing that you can do today? It's going to move you closer to where you ultimately aim to be, and then build on that. Don't attempt to take it all out at once, right? Like Rome wasn't built all in one day. You focus on what you can do what you can, use what you have, and take a daily step. Sooner than later, if you take a daily step every single day for 2023, after 365 days, you're going to experience a massive amount of progress. Of course, if you're just looking at it day by day, it may seem like you're not making that much progress. But if you look at the bigger scale of what's happening, right? My grandmother used to say, you can't see the picture if you're in the frame. If you can step away and see the ultimate picture, you're going to see the progress that you're making.
Yeah. Yeah. Because a lot of times people, me, myself, like you have an idea, you want to jump right into it. Boom. It doesn't happen in the first couple of days because that's the microwave thinking of it. You pop it in the microwave, hit it for 30 seconds, and you think it's going to happen. But you got to put it in the oven. And like you said, it's the big scheme of things. It's like you want to be a better you in 2023, but you want it to happen in January. It can't happen in January. It got to happen over time.
Well, we have been conditioned, Eric, by just the advancement of life to expect instant gratification. You know what I mean? Drive-through breakthroughs, overnight success. We can go online and whatever we want to find out, right? We can Google it and get it in a matter of seconds. Like we can grab our cell phones and we can go into an app and order food and it'll be at our front doorstep in a matter of minutes in some cases, right? If you're looking for a song, there used to be days, you're probably like close to my age, right? Where, we had to be sitting on the radio and have a cassette tape, inside of the radio and the stereo, and then call into the radio station and just wait for them to play it. And then you hit record. Nowadays, you can go to YouTube, you can go to Spotify and get any song that you choose. You can go to the drive-through at your bank and get the deposit, right? You can do whatever you want instantly. And what that does is it conditions our mind to think that that's the way that everything works, right? And that is a fragmented way of thinking, right? You're being deceived. So when you step into your goal and you don't see the results after 7 days, you're like, man, this doesn't work. The system is ineffective. It doesn't work. No, it's your perception and the expectations that you've created based upon your conditioning that's driven by your environment. You have to disconnect from that and see it for what it truly is. Great things take time. Positive shifts take time. To reinvent yourself, it takes time. To transform your life for the better, it takes time, right? So, to your point, we have to be willing to take those daily steps and embrace your process. You know what I mean? Like another thing that gets us all twisted up is when I see Eric doing it, he's crushing it, he's killing it. Man, we started at the same time. You know what I mean? Like he came from where I came from. It seems like he's 10 steps ahead. And I'm comparing and contrasting my journey to your journey. Missing what you're experiencing is not my experience, right? You're in a completely different lane. I've got to embrace my journey, right? Because my journey is going to help me become who I was created to become. Like you mentioned earlier, I'm a firm believer it's not about what we do, it's about who we become, right? We're not human doings, we're human beings. We don't do success, we become successful. And what ultimately shapes who we become are the processes and the journeys that we are taking. So we have to embrace that journey. If I give up and bail on the journey, I won't become the person that I was created to become, right? Because as I'm working on my goals are simultaneously working on me. So I have to embrace that process. I've got to embrace that journey because there's something at work there. It's helping me evolve into everything that I was created to become. So to wrap all that up, right? Embrace the journey. It won't happen overnight. Don't compare and contrast yourself to someone else. Keep taking those daily steps. Those steps are going to help you evolve into a greater being. That's going to help you create the life that you envision.
Yeah. And when you embrace the journey, like accept your journey because everybody couldn't go through your journey. Like when I looked at like life, me being born with the disability, it took 30 years to realize, oh, this is what I'm here for. I don't think there's too many people that could have went the time that could have lived my life. So it's like I don't really like, oh, I could have lived your life or I could put my shoe. Everybody's journey is different. So you got to look at yours and it's like it's for me. Because I've been there where there's been people where we started at the same time, like speaking, or they were just in the same like field and they're getting it. And I'm happy for them. but I had to understand, I had to go through my journey. They started a little before me, because sometimes we look at people and be like, oh, they're overnight celebrity. No, they're not. They've been doing it for years. You just didn't know about them. Now you know about them. Now you think they just came out the blue. You could go back to a lot of people's YouTube or Instagram and be like, oh, they have been out here for a minute. And they just, because it takes a process. And like you said, if you keep going and you keep doing it every day, somebody's going to see it. Somebody's going to see it, and you're going to get that opportunity that's going to help you level up. You got to not allow what other people are doing. Like, social media is killing everybody, because you look at, oh, they got this, they got that, they got this. They don't show you what they went through. They don't show you they got anxiety. They don't show you they're in depression. They don't show you that their mental health is messed up or their health is messed up. They just show you all the good stuff, so you compare yourself, and then now you're like, oh, what should I do? Get off your phone and get back to work. Because sometimes that's all it takes, is just getting back to work. Like, we watch a lot of people, or you go and post and then you scroll and you're like, oh, I'm looking at this. You're like, no, I'm going to go do me. Because if you don't do yourself and you're not yourself and you don't embrace that journey, you're going to fail, because you got caught up in somebody else's journey that you're not even in. Don't get caught up in somebody else's journey. Stay in your lane. So, with mastering your mindset, and you teach developing successful habits, somebody right now is listening, or when they listen to this, they started off the new year, they're at a job, they making just enough to get by, but they know there's more out there. They know it's, they got a business idea. What would you suggest they do? What would you suggest? Like, how can they get out that hump, or start off their new year going towards the right path?
Well, it all begins with what you want, right? You mentioned earlier the importance of developing and gaining clarity. It's a matter of you establishing a vision for yourself. Once you have that vision, you want to begin to assess your strengths, your unique abilities, the things that make you special, what you bring to the table. Then you also want to be fully aware of how you need to improve in order to get to where you're aiming to go, right? You see the vision, you see what can get you there, but you also see some areas that you need to actually better about yourself in order for you to be in alignment with that goal and with that vision. And then you want to start doing the necessary work to bridge the gap between where you are and where you ultimately aim to be. And I'll even add to that one component that's extremely important, right? As you establish what you're aiming to accomplish, begin to seek out people that are in that space. Who's operating in that element, who has that career, who's running a successful business that's in that industry. Reach out to them, ask them if they can mentor you, or if they can simply just sit down for a cup of coffee or a glass of tea, and they can, talk about their journey, and you're going to take notes and learn from their experiences, right? I'm in a great circle of small business owners and young professionals, and everybody that I'm connected to is always excited to share this story. Many people are often apprehensive and afraid to ask for help, failing to realize there's many people out there that's just willing to give up game, willing to share insights and to share their journey so they can help someone grow and, kind of cut the learning curve shorter so that they can experience some success in their personal journey. But again, get that clarity, establish that vision, understand what you bring to the table, what makes you unique, and the value that you have to offer, and then also be fully aware of what you need to improve about yourself in order to get there. Make the necessary connections and then get to work. Start executing on it. One thing that we don't want to do is to be stuck in a mindset, stuck in a situation, stuck in an environment, and feel as if we're sentenced to that life, right? As if you're a victim of that circumstance. We're not victims of circumstances, we're creators of circumstances. So, to that one that may be tuning in right now, that's like, yo, there's gotta be more out there for me. There is. You've got to open your mind, right? I tell many people you have to break the rules of your historical thinking. And when you break those rules, you're going to begin to expand your mind to greater possibilities. When you start seeing bigger things, you're going to have a bigger perception of what's possible. And when you start connecting with possibilities, That's going to drive that internal aspect within that'll help you get busy, right? Like when you had this vision to launch your podcast, you saw a possibility, right? It was once an idea, but then it became real because you started visualizing it. Then you started coming up with the game plan, mapping out the questions you're going to ask, the people you're going to interview, and you started executing on it because it was real in your mind, right? That image that you see is going to influence how you show up. But that all started with a vision. Then you begin to assess what you need to bring to the table, what you need to improve. What equipment do I need, right? Who do I need to connect with? How can I make these connections? What podcast can I learn from? Maybe you reached out to somebody that's running a podcast and you're like, yo, how did you do it? You package all that together and then apply that information on a consistent basis. Here you are now with the Underdog Talk consistently. Every single week, you putting something out, but it all started with the vision. That's the blueprint right there. That's the system for everything, for anything you're aiming to build, right? Of course, there's different nuances in comparison to what you're creating to that person that may be tuning in, but nonetheless, it starts with the vision and you apply that execution, you can create the result.
I love that. I love that. Um, I always ask my guests to give a quote. It could be your quote. It could be a quote you found, you read, or something you heard today. Give us a quote, and then let people know how they can reach out to you.
Your belief will always carry more power than your reality. If I can unpack that, you may be looking at your reality right now and feel as if things can't improve. Life will never be better. My situation will never be different. It's not about what your reality is saying, it's about what you believe. And if you can believe that there's something greater on the other side, if you can believe that you can overcome this current struggle, if you can believe that you can rise above this specific challenge that you are in, that's the starting point to your transformation. Because what you believe will ultimately shape how you show up, right? And how you perform, how you're going to respond to adversity or respond to particular situations that you face. So if you believe bigger than your circumstances, you're positioning yourself to change those circumstances. But as long as your reality is bigger than the belief that you have for your goals and your dreams, you'll put yourself in this cycle where you'll never be able to overcome it. So to that one that's discouraged and feels like giving up on their goals and their dreams, or maybe even ultimately life, I want you to upgrade what you believe about yourself, upgrade what you believe about your vision, and upgrade what you believe to be possible for you and your life. And as you upgrade your mindset, you'll position yourself to overcome whatever life throws at you. You guys can stay connected with me. Elevation is a Must is my website. That's where I have all of my programs, whether it be coaching or if you have an organization that's looking for speakers, don't hesitate to reach out to see what we can do for your organization. I'm also at D1 Gibson on all platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then youtube.com/David Gibson. I'm primarily active on Instagram, and then we have our small business series that's on YouTube as well. So be sure to tap in. But to make it easy, what you can do is go to elevationisamust.com. That has all of my social media, links, and then you can also subscribe to my weekly newsletter for mindset insights.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate
Sure, brother.
the information, the knowledge that you dropped for not just the guests, but for myself as well. Appreciate your time. Thank you for everything that you do here in Indianapolis and what you're doing for people all around the world, because I know you definitely go around the world and speak. So appreciate you.
Yeah, man. I love
but-
what you're doing, brother. Keep it going, man. Applying that pressure and build that momentum. You never know who's tuning in and listening and who you're inspiring. So keep shining your light, man.
Appreciate it. You got anything to say before we get out of here? I always say a closing word, like in church. You got a closing word so we can get out of here.
Is this the second close here?
Yeah, just the last little thing.
I'll wrap it up by saying this, man, to everybody that's tuning in and to everybody that's listening at this very moment. I want you to hear me clearly. You are a star wrapped in skin. The light that you search for has always been within. So instead of looking out the window to find the answer, look in the mirror. That's the person that can create the transformation that you envision. Believe in that person. Connect with that person. Give that person permission to liberate their greatness and show up with excellence day in and day out. Don't allow your circumstances or your challenges to be bigger than you. We all know that greater is He that's within us than he that's within this world. What I'm saying is for you to connect with your greatness and activate your personal power and go get everything that's got your name on it. Be powerful.
On that note, peace, one love.
Yes, sir.